Class 1A was finally able to retrieve Izuku Midoriya successfully, mind you, bring him back to UA. However, there is uproar among the masses, those seeking protection, as Japan has been in a state of ruin and lawlessness. Hello everyone, I'm Jet from All Day The Geek Way. I hope you're enjoying your day. The Geek Way, of course, and here I'm going to talk about My Hero Academia, Chapter 323. Spoilers to be expected. If you haven't been caught up with the manga, I suggest doing so. But from here on out, I will be going into spoilers on the new chapter called One Step. Before I get into that, though, if you aren't already subscribed to All Day The Geek Way, it would be awesome. Maybe hit the notification bell if you enjoy the content. I'm trying to reach 100 subscribers by November. We'll see what happens, but until then, any support is highly appreciated. So at the beginning of this chapter, we look at Class 1A before they caught up to Deku, talking to Principal Nezu in his office. I'm talking about bringing him safely would probably convince, well, Ida's saying bringing him back safely would convince the civilians that everything is okay. However, Nezu seems to be a little bit more keen that, given the certain circumstances, it's still risky to shelter him here. However, he also goes into depth about the defensive technology that UA has. However, it's comparable to Tartarus, and Yaoyorozu points out, well, Tartarus was broken into recently, and also the USJ incident happened. Then we also got to see what Shigaraki's capable of firsthand. And then Nezu, with his smiling face, says, that's why I upgraded the UA security system. And we learned a lot about it. I'm looking at it as I'm talking about it as well. Basically, the barrier is more than an armored fortress. It has multiple layers to it. Single parts of UA are able to be moved underground in a linear space through different mechanisms. And let's see, the shelter moves on superconducting linear accelerators so that the area can take a different route as is deemed appropriate. And so Denki says, that's something straight out of a mecha anime. Correct. Thank you. But we learned that the circumference of the underground is reinforced with 3,000 steel plates. So there's a lot of room to maneuver, and not to mention it's also connected to Shiketsu High, which they've, after the identity swap incident, they've increased their security measures. And you could also go from UA to Shiketsu if you really wanted. Sero asks, how far is that? And they did say that it's west. UA is the eastern school. Shiketsu's the western school. And then they also talk about the culture festival. And I think they're referencing that there may have been the stupid spy plot within UA. I think this is it. I know Tokiyama talks about, but what about the time of the culture festivals? Surely there was no way to know about that. To which Nezu says there was absolutely no evidence back then. It was purely my intuition. And that's why he's paying for it all, because of the intuition. Now, I just think this is kind of lazy writing, to be honest. Just being like, hey, remember this plot point? I do remember that plot point. And it was a plot point that could have been expanded upon, but it was intuition, and it won't be expanded upon. Now, I'll be honest, though, if they're talking about the culture festival, or if they're talking about, let's see, no, for provisional license training arc. Okay, yeah, all right. I might just be getting confused here. If someone could explain that for me, I would be very much happy to hear the explanation. I would very much appreciate it. And then Nezu says, because it was based off of intuition, I'm paying for it all. And Endeavor says, well, he's recognized all around the world for enhancing quirks and making the quirk community better. And basically, he says, please do your best to reach Midoriya, and they all set out. But now we're back to the present day, where we see the angry mob basically saying, like, yeah, don't let Midoriya in here, like, get him out, because, oh, someone's screaming, because All For One is after him. And it's really cool, though, because in each of the panels, we see characters that Izuku is very pivotal towards. So one of the panels, we see his mom. That's an obvious one. The next one, we see Eri. And then we see Koda along with Ragdoll, and then some of the Class A friends and Sarah saying, like, we can't do anything because there's no getting through to the mob. Then who, let's see, you have President Mike telling everyone to come down, then who comes out of nowhere other than Best Jeanist saying it was his proposal. Best Jeanist, we came here because we trusted your words. Yeah, Best Jeanist proposed that everyone go to UA High for their own protection since they have the best security system. And probably all of the world, maybe just Japan, but not quite sure. But he explains, like, this is the safest place that you can be. See, we came up with a plan and used Izuku Midoriya as bait to figure out where the villains were located. However, we were only able to capture a few due to the insufficient amount of investigators, which makes sense because, I mean, Izuku was pursued pretty hard, and also it was just, it was Endeavor, Hawks, and Best Jeanist, so it was Izuku working with the top three, excuse me. He's also the greatest hero asset. If he had stayed out in the field, he would have surely died by now, which is 100% true, considering we had the Deus Ex of Machina, Bakugo, coming in and saving Izuku when Izuku was the most fatigued. We understand that it might not be an honest option, but we don't have a choice. Knowing that you don't feel comfortable under the anxiety-provoking circumstances, please allow him to rest here, where he will be safe, so that he can be prepared to fight. He needs to be in the best condition to fight for us. To which the crowd is not very convinced. They said, hey, you're the reason for this problem. Fix it. You need to accept the burden, which, not gonna lie, that's kind of a reasonable response, although it is mom mentality just as well. And Izuku, I'm assuming it's Izuku, there's a little bit of a narration portion. It could be either Izuku or Uraraka, but I think it's Izuku. He says their anxiety is spreading and exploding, and you see Uraraka jumping into the air using her zero gravity quirk. Oh, come on, all we're asking is to sleep at night knowing we're safe. Yeah, she's jumping into the air to go to the top of the building of UA. And you see also Ochako's parents being like, oh, Ochako, and so you're going to the top, and she grabs a megaphone and basically hyping up Midoriya. So Uraraka is succeeding where Best Jeanist did not. And saying like, oh yeah, he has a special power. That's exactly why a guy like him can't come back here just because he's tired. And I love this next portion because she says, no, he left UA because he didn't want to put any of us in danger, which is true, 100% true. That's why he abandoned his whole class in order to pursue All for One and drag out the villains, not to mention take down multiple assassins, not to mention he was incredibly fatigued by the time that Class 1A got him. And the entire, like, I went over this before, but the entire encounter between Class 1A and Midoriya was all him being like, no, like, you're not powerful enough. You're in danger. You're endangering yourselves, and I don't want you to be part of that. Well, anyway, Uraraka says that they are the ones who brought him back. His power is special. It's a power made to defeat AFO. That's the reason he's targeted. That's why he had to leave. Have you looked at him? Have you seen the state that he's in now? And he looks pretty terrible. Horikoshi depicts that really well with his costume being all raggedy and damaged, and his face like being has a bunch of schmutz on it, I guess you could say. It says, that's why he had to leave. Have you looked at him? Have you seen him in the state he is now? Just because he left to protect us, which is a good argument. You see Izuku's mom is like crying. You see the guy in the audience who was starting an uproar, kind of being like, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't talk anymore. He wants to do something to change our situation the most out of anybody. He kept moving for others despite knowing that he could be attacked at any moment. True! He could have been attacked at any moment while he was out there. In fact, he was being attacked at any moment. He had 2 assassins go after him. One of them they took down, zero issue whatsoever. And then you see the fox girl that he saved earlier, the one with the mutation quirk, and she's like, yeah, that's the boy you saved me. And Uraraka says, even though he might have a special power, he isn't a special person, which kind of a slap in the face, but I see what he says, what she's saying. He's human. Even with a security system like ours in place, they're still restless. Okay, so this is Bakugo talking, by the way. He's telling Midoriya, like, they're still restless, even with, like, the security system where they're safe. And then Bakugo says, if you can't wipe something, leave it to us to wipe for you. Oh, excuse me. If you can't wipe something, leave it to us to wipe it for you. And then we end the chapter saying, taking the first step is always hard, but I know that taking a step at a time like this will lead to the birth of a true hero, one that will surpass All Might. Now, it's not clear whether this is Uraraka saying anything, or if this is Bakugo continuing on with a narration. I'm not quite sure, to be honest with you. But, yeah, that's how the chapter ends. So I'm looking forward to next week. Knock on wood, that is next week. Shonen has been releasing My Hero Academia chapters once every 2 weeks. I know not too long ago it was due to the editors needing a week off, which makes sense. Editors do a lot of work for Shonen, even if they make bad decisions for stuff such as Bleach. Anyway, I'm also just kind of like concerned if there's many areas that you can go to in UA with multiple levels with 3,000 steel plates. Have Midoriya go into one of those elevators and go into like one random area of the steel plates. Like there's so much distance between Shiketsu and UA, so I'm like, why just do that? And I understand why people are in an uproar because Midoriya has revealed that All for One is after him. But at the same time, like, dog, Midoriya put himself in like critical danger for the benefit of everyone else. Like, he did some pretty good work. And I think Endeavor, Hawks, and Best Jeanist should have been a little bit more on top of it, because there was that portion where Izuku just kind of went off on his own, did his own thing. And as a repercussion, he ended up exhausted, delirious, almost like manic. But what can you do? So hopefully in the next chapter, Uraraka's speech will probably reach out to everyone. They'll be like, okay, you can rest here. Now, we could reasonably suspect that villains are still going to somehow make it into UA. Maybe not, or maybe Izuku will rest and go back out onto the field. I don't know. We'll see what happens. This chapter wasn't my favorite chapter as of yet, but it was good development, especially with like Uraraka. I did find it funny that the number 3 hero couldn't motivate a whole crowd, but a random high school student at UA High probably will. But I guess it's also understandable after Heroes failed society. So we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to the next chapter, and I'm just going to end the video right here. If you enjoy the content, please subscribe. It helps me out a lot, especially if you made it past this 13 minutes. That is fantastic, and I do greatly appreciate it. But until next time, everyone, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy your day the geek way, of course. I'll see you in the next video.